And thank you so much. So my name is Philip Gondi. I lead the Startup Directorate within the Kenya National Innovation Agency. So I'll just give an overview of who Kenya is. So Kenya National Innovation Agency was formed under this Act of Parliament, that is the Science, Technology and Innovation Act of 2013. Our core mandate is to nurture, develop, and coordinate the national innovation systems. So that's really what brings us here, because this convention looks into how do we nurture the innovation system, and we're having investors here who will really put that particular money within that particular ecosystem to help it grow and helping the startups, which even as an agency, as a government agency, we do give the risking funds for the same startups. So we're glad to be here because we're coming here to get more partners to help drive the government agenda to fund the startups.
You've mentioned about partners that obviously help fund the government agenda to drive that narrative, the entire ecosystem. Now, part of what people are saying here is that in Kenya we only have one of the biggest unicorns, that is M-Pesa, Safaricom, as opposed to Estonia, where we have a lot of other ecosystems. And one of the things that obviously slow this is the regulatory framework. Why is this? Why is the government, why do you feel government is, I mean, we don't have enough investors to come and invest in our local startups here?
Okay, yeah, sure, you're right, but perhaps I'll give a bit of context. Is Kenya today, we are the highest destination of funding money in Africa. In the last year, we had 668 million coming to Kenya alone, million USD coming to Kenya. So we are the highest destination for innovation, money coming for startups within Kenya. And I do agree that the only unicorn that we're able to produce is Safaricom, but it's a journey that we also need. Innovation is quite dynamic. And when you see government coming to forums for innovation, it's because we would like to be part of it, we would like to drive that particular agenda. And part of the aspect of how we are driving that is we're coming to participate in it, coming to learn, coming to actually discuss with the ecosystem and see on better ways we can be able to do it. Secondly, the government in this particular financial year has 30% relief on income tax for any startup that is registered and certified in Kenya. In the next quarter, that is should be January to March, we'll be getting more information in regards to we would like to help startups to be able to set base in Kenya, and that is in terms of instead of going to Delaware for having their fund management in Delaware, we would like those startups that are raising in Kenya to have their fund here in Kenya. And that's you'll be getting more information towards that. There's so much discussion within the Treasury, and I believe around February, March, there should be a communication from government on what we are doing for startups and tax reliefs that will be coming for startups for the first 5 years.
Yeah. Fair enough. Obviously, from a regulatory point of view, when I have the figures, which sector attracts more funding when it comes to the startups in Kenya?
Okay, fine. From what we've even had from discussions within this particular convening is the fintech. And the reason why fintech will get much of that funding is because the infrastructure to set up fintech is not as costly as the infrastructure that, let me give an example, in health tech. Somebody wants to, somebody came up with a new medicine. It takes long processes of testing it, which is good because we want to also kill people. We are dealing with livelihoods. So you'll notice that there'll be significant money going to fintech because it is easier to set up, it's easier to run, and the regulatory process are also easier. So that's why you notice much money coming to Kenya today is on the fintech. There's also significant tilt towards climate tech, and which we're also seeing it, looking at mobility, looking at issue with the circularity economy. So there's much money that's also coming towards that, and we've noticed that significant improvement, and also looking at the energy, we see in climate tech, also having much of that money coming to Kenya, channeled through those particular avenues. So that is also something that we're also proud of it, that we're not only focusing on fintech, which is already crowded, but we're also moving to the next stage.
Fair enough. And finally, for me, beyond the foreign direct investments, which is why we are here today, getting people to come and invest in fintechs in the country. Not just fintechs, but the entire startup ecosystem. But you figure a lot of startups die maybe in the second year of their journey. Part of this reason is because of the finance. Is there something that government is doing specifically to ensure that we nurture these startups to their maturity?
Perfect. And I can actually encourage that, because one of the things that as a Kenya National Innovation Agency we do the de-risking of startups. We have the Presidential Innovation Award and Challenge that we run annually, where we give the biggest ticket size we give is up to 5 million Kenyan shillings. Much of the money that we do give is in the regions of 500,000, 500,000 to 1 million. And this we give to the early stage startups, just to de-risk them, because you understand the financial instruments we have in this country does not support startups. So we give this money as a grant to these particular startups to establish themselves, get the operations working, so that by the time they're going to a funder, they're going to a venture capitalist, they're going to a bank, already they have some workflow on how that is happening. Secondly, apart from giving that money, we capacity build them on how they are going to start within that particular program. And this is a program that the government have been doing it for the past 3 years. So far, we've been able to capture up to 226 startups in 3 years with this particular money. And I welcome you. Come January or February, we shall be having another call for applications, whereby startups are able to apply for this particular money. They go to a challenge. We have 4 different categories. One category we have with the research to commercialization. So these are basically the researchers. Second category, we have the student innovators. These are probably persons within the universities. Third category, we have the counties. These are probably people who are not in the universities, but they're young people, below the age of 35. The fourth category now, we have for persons, startups who have begun. They're still in the early stages, the nascent stages. Yeah? But you remember, the ones we have for the youth, for the ones the counties are idea stages. We fund those ideas because we believe nobody else can fund an idea, only government can help fund that idea. So that's what the government of Kenya is doing.
Thank you. I think that's enough for me.
Okay. So since 2013, the figure you've given, 200 plus, is it the figure from 2013 or in the past 3 years? And how much in total have you offered in form of grants, and how many startups have been able to exit or rather upgrade, and how many have failed? So I'm looking at impacts. So how much impact have you had as Kenya?
Okay, thank you. So Kenya establishment in 2013, right? We began operations in 2016. And as a government, when Kenya was starting out, we were having staff that were deployed from different ministries. Up to until 2020, that Kenya got its first employee, and that's our Chief Executive Officer, Dr. Tony Omwansa. So from that particular point, is when we began setting up the systems within the Kenya National Innovation Agency. So up to until 2022, when now we began getting money from the sports fund to support the Presidential Innovation Award and Challenge together with the Kenya Innovation Week. So that's now the point where the funding for the risking, we were able to get it from the government. Talking about impact, up to today we have up to 78 of those particular startups being able to graduate to date as we speak to early stage startups. From being idea to early stage, 78 recorded. That's the impact that we've been able to. And if I look at that particular way, you're looking at about 40%, which is relatively high, because most startups at idea stage that are funded, only up to between 8 to 10% manage to get to early stage.
Yeah, so how much do you offer per startup? You said the 4 levels.
We have the 4 levels.
Yeah.
The top tier is up to 5 million.
That's Kenya shilling.
Kenyan shilling, 5 million Kenyan shillings. Majority of them get between half a million, 500,000 to 1 million. So we don't have a standard amount that we give, but for the winners, get 5 million of every category. You get 5 million. First runners up, 3 million. Second runners up, 1 million. Then now we have the majority. The depending on now on their value proposition, then they'll get between $500,000 to $1 million.
So apart from the funds,
Sure.
in what other ways do you support the startup ecosystem in Kenya?
Another way that we support the startup ecosystem, fine, the people who give the monies with capacity building, to be able to understand how they're going to use this particular money and how this mentorship will do for them. Secondly, we're also working with the enterprise support organizations. These are the innovation hubs, the incubators, and one of the aspects that we're working with them is we've come up with the maturity framework that is going to organize and help assess them, see what growth looks like for them. Secondly, about the ESOs, we are currently working on a revenue-based financing. So working with different development partners that we now want to help the ESOs grow. So we're going to give them money that they're having incentive that if you move from stage A to stage P, depending on the KPI that you're going to have, then there'll be an incentive in terms of monetary grant that helps you move. And the essence of this is we like them to be sustainable. So we give you targets to meet. When you meet them, you get money. And that's one other aspect that we are looking to support the ecosystem. Thirdly, we support convenings like this one, whereby we come, we have a little token that we give so that we get these discussions. So at this convenience, we also having a listening ear to get where is the market, where's the trends, because innovation is very dynamic. So we come here to be able to catch up with it and to align ourselves with the innovation. Because as a different agency, we have to be very dynamic in the way that we do our businesses.
Yeah, and there is this mentality. This is an African perspective from African startup founders. There's this thing they call Mzungu as a service.
Yeah, sure.
It has been there for about 10 years now.
Sure.
How do you think this? Do you think this is sustainable, and how long should it take to unsubscribe from this service?
Yeah, sure. I'm so happy that today in this convention we have local funders, because you also have to understand that when we put a Mzungu service comes to play, most of the funders in this ecosystem are Zungus. But now that you have more, like you've been having Nairobi Business Neighbor,
Yeah.
Business Angel Networks. When you have such homegrown funds here in Kenya, then we will not have to wait for the Mzungu money to come, but we have our money here that will be able to sustain our startups here. So as that grows, because we also have to accept that our ecosystem is we are still nurturing it, but we are at a good position. The trajectory is so right, and we are good at this particular level. So I'm just looking at it, in the next 3 to 5 years, we'll be having more funds set up in Kenya, and we'll be having more of our startups getting money directly from Kenya as opposed to waiting for money from the West.
Now, as an ecosystem builder, what do you think should be done better in terms of regulation and policy for the startup ecosystem in Kenya?
Okay, sure. As a government, we work on what's on the problem. So I can't really say the government will say there is a problem, but what we are working on currently is the taxation, whereby most startups, you see, because innovation is a very risky venture, and if we look at a startup like an SME, we miss it. The dynamics of a startup is a high-risk venture. There's somebody just trying out an idea that has not been done before, or they do not have where to benchmark it with. So what we are looking at within the government is tax reliefs for these particular startups in the first 3 to 5 years of their establishment. This will help them put up that money now to, if it is growth, product development, or their own operations. So that is what we are looking at. That's why we've seen the greatest gap at that bit of taxation. So we want to lighten that particular load for those particular startups. For those ones that are still have at idea stages, we de-risk.
Last question.
Yeah.
To what extent are you optimistic about this ecosystem?
I'm very much optimistic. I'll take you back. Looking from 2021, 2025, if you see the trajectory of how Kenya have been being able to attract foreign aid investment for startups, the graph has been rising. From 2023, I can tell you we had a limp of more than 50%. And now we are at a level that the projections for 2025 will be able to raise up to 780 million. If the flow goes as it goes, by the end of the year we shall have raised up to 780 million money, which will have been brought in Kenya. Secondly, when you see the government wants to help startup to have their funds based in Kenya, it's because the government have also seen it that there's a huge amount of money that goes to areas like Delaware, where the startups feel safe to have their fund management at that particular area. And now we want that fund to be coming to Kenya, and it's going to help us with foreign exchange, going to help us in wealth creation, going to help us in job creation. And that's what, as a government, we are working towards, and we are so passionate about really growing this particular ecosystem. And I'll welcome even on Friday, we have another session at the SK Dome, where we'll be having even discussion with the young innovators from the universities, just teaching about intellectual property, patenting, copywriting. Because as a startup, you need to understand your art, you need not to let go your IP. And we are linking them with the KIPI to help them in that. We'll also be having trainings from WIPO to teach them intellectual property. So we really invested fully to support the startup ecosystem.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.